My name is Eloise Fenton, and since the moment I drew my first breath, my parents, Ruth and Stanley, treated me like a walking omen. Not just the unwanted child kind of neglect. I mean, full-blown, you ruined our lives kind of disgust. They'd whisper it behind my back, or shout it when I dropped a glass or failed a test. "Of course the cursed one did it," my mother would snap. "She's been nothing but bad luck since the moment we brought her home," my father would add. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I used to think maybe they were joking. Maybe that's just how some families teased. But then I saw how they treated my younger sister Mariah. Mariah was sunshine, golden curls, dimples, and a voice like honey. She could torch the kitchen and Mom would blame the oven. I could sneeze near the curtains and suddenly I was a fire hazard. My childhood was full of blame. Broken bikes, missed payments, even Dad's failed business venture. They always found a way to twist it into something I'd caused. "You jinxed the deal," he said once, tossing my school folder out of the car window. "You looked at my client with those cursed eyes and ruined everything." I started believing them. At 17, I remember standing in the rain after school because they'd forgotten to pick me up for the 4th time that month. When I called, Mom answered with a groan. "We thought you'd finally run away. Would have saved us some trouble." Still, I stayed. I got a job at 18, helped cover bills, even paid for Mariah's art classes. Never once did I get a thank you. All I ever heard was, "You owe us for raising you despite the curse." Then came the fire. Mariah threw a tantrum one night and knocked over a candle. The rug caught, then the drapes. I ran upstairs, yanked her out of her bedroom, and dragged her through the smoke. But when the fire chief asked what happened, Dad pointed straight at me. "She was probably doing one of her hexes. She's into strange books." I was arrested. Briefly. They pressed charges until the fire marshal found proof it was Mariah, and even then, no apology. "They let her go because they don't know her history," Mom hissed. "But we do. We know she brings misfortune." I left the next day, with nothing but a duffel bag and my high school diploma. It took 5 years to rebuild my life. I moved 2 states away, got a job as a paralegal, saved every penny, took online business classes. By 26, I launched my own online consulting firm, Karm. It was slow at first, but after a few lucky breaks, clients rolled in. A startup in Seattle, a real estate firm in Denver. I went from ramen noodles to real estate investments in less than 3 years. And then something strange happened. An email from Mariah. She sounded desperate, said Dad had a stroke, Mom was overwhelmed, the house was falling apart. Mariah dropped out of college and had nowhere to turn. "You were always lucky," she wrote. "Maybe you can help us? You owe it to us. We're still family." I stared at the screen, numb. They'd disowned me, blamed me, and now, because life hit them hard, they remembered I existed? I didn't reply. But I did book a flight, not to forgive. To watch Karma arrive at their doorstep, wearing heels, holding paperwork, and smiling. When I landed back in my hometown, it was like stepping into a moldy basement that hadn't seen light in years. Everything smelled like regret and rust. The gas station where I used to buy burnt coffee was now boarded up. The bakery with the nice lady who once slipped me free cookies just because had turned into a vape shop. I didn't call to let them know I was coming, let them think their cursed daughter was still the same lost girl they kicked out. The cab pulled into my parents' street. Their house looked like it hadn't been painted in a decade. Weeds burst through the cracks in the sidewalk like tiny rebellions. A busted car sat in the driveway, and the porch light flickered like it wasn't sure whether to live or die. Fitting. I knocked once. Mariah opened the door, her face thin, eyes shadowed. Eloise. She looked like she'd aged 10 years and 5. Her voice cracked, as if saying my name cost her something. I brushed past her, stepped inside, and found myself back in the war zone of my childhood. Mom sat on the couch, her hair wild, her robe stained. She didn't even look up from her crossword puzzle. "You came late," she mumbled. "We've been waiting." "For what?" I asked flatly. For you to finally do something useful." Dad was in a wheelchair by the window. His eyes were sunken. He didn't look powerful anymore, just tired. But even in that state, he managed to grunt, "Should have come sooner. If you weren't so cursed, maybe this wouldn't have happened." I froze. That was their opening line? "No, thank you. No, how have you been?" Not even fake politeness. They thought I'd come crawling. "I didn't come to fix anything," I said, staring down at them. "I came to see the ruins you built with your own hands." Mariah whimpered, "Please, I didn't mean it back then. You were always stronger. We need you now. You needed me when I was a child crying in the dark. You needed me when the world blamed me for things I never did. But back then, I was just your bad omen, right?" Mariah looked down. Mom scoffed. "Don't act like you're better than us. You're still that cursed girl with a chip on her shoulder." I smiled. "I'm the cursed girl who owns the mortgage on this house." Silence. "What?" Mom's eyes twitched. I took a folder from my bag and dropped it on the coffee table. "Bought it from the bank last month. You stopped paying. The foreclosure went through faster than I thought." Dad's voice cracked. "You're lying." Mariah picked up the paper and gasped. "It's true! The house is in her name!" I walked around the room slowly like I was examining a museum exhibit of mistakes. "You made me think I was cursed, but every scar you gave me, it turned into muscle. Every insult became fuel. You were so scared of my strength you buried me in shame, but you forgot. Seeds grow in dirt." Mariah burst into tears. Mom stood up shaking. "You can't throw us out. We're your parents." "You were never parents. You were the storm that tried to drown me." I turned to the door. "You have 60 days. Find somewhere else to haunt." As I stepped outside, the sun broke through the clouds. I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I felt clean. But I wasn't done yet. Because karma wasn't just about repossession. It was about revelation. 2 weeks later, I hosted a gala downtown. Not for charity, not for networking. It was a celebration of curses. The venue was glass-walled and gleaming, the kind of place my mother used to scoff at. Too flashy for decent people. But the truth was, I wanted it to sparkle. I wanted every cruel whisper, every pitying glance I'd endured as a kid to be reflected in polished marble floors and chandeliers worth more than their car. And yes, I invited them. The invitation came in an envelope lined with gold leaf. On the front, it read, "Eloise Fenton presents The Curse That Won." I didn't expect them to show up. But they did. Mariah arrived first in a borrowed gown 2 sizes too big. Her shoes were scuffed, her hair overprocessed. She looked like someone who didn't recognize her own reflection anymore. Mom came next, dragging her bitterness behind her like a fur coat. Dad stayed in the van. He couldn't bring himself inside. They walked in slowly, not knowing they were walking into the grand unveiling of their own undoing. I spotted them from across the room, but didn't approach right away. I let them see the crowd first. CEOs, news anchors, tech investors, and artists clinking glasses. I let them notice my name on the banners, the floral ice sculptures carved in my initials. Then I took the mic. "Good evening. Tonight we celebrate rebirth. Tonight I dedicate this event to someone very special." The crowd leaned in. "I dedicate this to a girl who was told she brought ruin just by existing, to the child whose own parents whispered behind closed doors. Maybe we should have never had her, to the teenager who was blamed when the pipe burst, the dog died, or the neighbors moved. You called her a curse." I looked directly at my family. But it wasn't a curse. It was resistance. It was survival. It was the refusal to rot in your grave of shame. A few people clapped. I didn't pause. And now, to those same parents who said she would never amount to anything because she was born wrong. You live in the house I own. You eat because I allow it, and after tonight, you won't. Gasps. I turned to the side where a screen lit up. A pre-recorded video played. It was footage of my mother laughing at age 35. "She's got something off about her, just brings bad luck. I wish we'd sent her to boarding school." Then, Mariah at a party. Eloise, she'll work at a gas station if she's lucky. She's like a magnet for disasters. The room grew silent. Those clips were taken from family camcorders, I said. I restored them, not to hurt, to remember. Because gaslighting is loud when the lights are off, but the tape keeps rolling. Mariah shrunk into her seat. My mother clenched her purse so tightly her knuckles turned white. I walked down the stairs toward them. You made me feel like a monster, so I became one, but not the kind you meant. I became the monster that eats generational poison. I became the ghost you can't bury. My voice lowered. You wanted me gone, and now you will be. A lawyer stepped forward and handed Mariah an envelope. Effective immediately, the house has been sold. Mom's mouth dropped. What? To a women's shelter, I continued. They'll move in next week. You have 48 hours. We raised you, she screamed. No, you caged me. They stood trembling, but I turned my back. The crowd clapped, not for cruelty, for closure. Later that night, I walked the empty halls of the house I used to hide in. I left one thing behind on the front porch, a hand mirror. Taped to the back was a note. This is what the curse really looks like. And I walked away without looking back. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from